I am going to show you who deals the strongest DPS in Opera Omnia Global, and we're going to be including everything: on-turn damage, off-turn damage, burst phasing, and nuking. To start, we'll do total damage. For everyone, here's the team we'll be using. These are the conditions I'm setting, these are the conditions I'm leaving out, and finally here are the party HP cap-ups we will have. First things first, this is how the turn orders will look. I made a force time order for units with 10 turn BT effects, 8 turn BT effects, and then 1 for 6. On deciding which units to start with first, I asked which DPS they thought had the highest in global. These were the ones continuously brought up: Astos, Aranea, Kadaj, Strago, Jilnabit, Enacro, and Renoa. First we have Strago at a damage total of 564 million. Following him is Renoa at 565 million. Above her is Enacro at 608 million. Kadaj is next at 630 million. Then Aranea at 641 million, and Jilnabit at 700 million. You might be wondering, where is Astos in all this? Honestly, I have no idea. I can't even calculate how much damage he does without his burst. What I can calculate is his total burst phase damage, which, unsurprisingly, is easily the highest out of everyone here. Even if we were only to compare his burst phase damage to everyone else's total damage, he would still be above Enacro, Renoa, and Strago. But if you thought that was the end of the video, we still have other DPS units to include, as well as covering other types of DPS units. For the other attackers, I chose Balthier, Sid Reigns, Cloud, Fusoya, Golbez, Lon and Rain, Locke, Null, Papalamo, Rex, Celtius, Sephiroth, Snow, Squall, Tifa, Vincent, Ida, Yuri, Zac, and Zidane. You got all that? There's been a lot of DPS units in this game. And no, Papalamo is not at the bottom. It's actually Lon and Rain with a total of 391 million damage. Zac at the second bottom has a bit more with 432 million, followed by Tifa at 433 million, Sid Reigns at 441 million, Squall at 453 million, and then Papalamo comes in with a total damage of 465 million. There is one thing he gives that is pretty nice. That is the additional damage up from his BT debuff. You can see in the damage calculations all of Papalamo's attacks receive a 1.1 multiplier because his debuff gives 10% additional damage up on all attacks. So who's above Papalamo in total damage? First is Vincent at 475 million, Golbez at 480 million, Cloud at 483 million, Yuri at 495, Null 510, Zidane 519, Sephiroth 520, Locke 533, Fusoya 541, Balthier 543, and Snow at 577 million. The top 3 might surprise some of you, others probably not. The third highest in this group is Celtius at 603 million, Rex is second at 611 million, and of course, Ida's at the top with 728 million in total damage. Now, apart from other DPS units, I'm also including units of any type really: supports, sub-attackers, third slot units, and debuffers. Now, we move on to supports and sub-attackers. The ones I've included are Braska, Deuce, Ignis, Leonora, Mog, Queen, Rem, Rosa, and Yuna. Not wasting any time, the bottom total damage for this list is Yuna coming in at 473 million damage. Braska is next with 507 million, Mog with 509 million, Queen at 511 million, Leonora at 523 million, Rosa at 526 million, Rem at 562 million, and unsurprising to everyone, Deuce comes in at second with 584 million, and Ignis totaling more than 150 million over Deuce at 749 million damage. We've already gotten this far, we might as well add the third slot units and debuffers too. Here are the ones I've included: Edgar, Jesse, Quistis, Reno, Sarah, Shantoto, and Yuffie. Who do you think is at the bottom? I know what most of you are thinking. One of the biggest DPS memes in Opera Omnia besides Papalamo. Edgar. It's gotta be him, right? Nope, it's Quistis at 357 million damage. Don't let that 90% BT HP cap up fool you. After her, then comes Edgar at 361 million. Very close to him is Shantoto at 361.8 million. Next is Jesse at 478 million, Sarah at 498 million, Yuffie number 2 at 504 million, and then Reno at 597 million total damage. Reno at number 1 might be surprising given that barely anyone mentioned him in these types of conversations. Short BT effect, his main role being a debuffer, but remember that with his burst active, his HP command switches to an 11 AoE HP attack move, which is very strong. Whether or not he has an easy time capping that damage is a whole other story, since we're only dealing with maximums here. But make sure to stay for the rest of the video to see where all of these units stack up in other DPS categories. Finally, I included linked attackers. The ones in this video will be Weiss, Sisney, Noctis, and Leo. Unsurprisingly, Leo is at the bottom, dealing 430 million in total. Next is Noctis with 454 million, and then there is a huge DPS jump to Sisney, who hits for 598 million total damage. And then at the top, we have Weiss at 608 million. Sisney's follow-up only stays at max when her LD buff is on, which lasts only 1 turn, or if her BT effect is on, which lasts just 6 turns. To build up force time, you would have to sacrifice her getting her LD buff by using her FR echoes, making her follow-up weaker. But I know what you're thinking. No one's gonna use these people's burst phases actually, which is exactly why I made another damage formula for linked attackers specifically. Instead of having the X unit activate their BT and burst phase, you measure it but have the R unit phase instead. Starting from the bottom, as always, we have Noctis at a total of 196 million damage, followed closely by Leo with 198 million. Weiss at third place with 236 million, Kadaj in second, 292 million, and finally, this shouldn't surprise anyone, the highest total damage in my off-turn formula was Sisney at 512 million. So here's the ranking of everyone in terms of total damage calculated in 1 Kiaran force time. Here's everyone's burst phase damages ranked, and here is everyone ranked for off-turn. That still doesn't account for everything, because nukers are also a big part of DPS. Nuking doesn't rely on overtime consistency, it relies on how much damage you can pack with a limited amount of attacks. These types of units are inefficient when it comes to moving a lot, or even burst phasing. Unfortunately, in Opera Omnia, I was never able to find a formula that was applicable enough to use for most units. That was until a certain someone got reworked in JP. Meet Aiko and her broken BT effect. Aiko's BT allows any party member dealing holy damage to choose who follows their turn. Here's the thing, there is no limit to this, and if you want, you can keep choosing the same unit to attack forever. Her BT is the perfect way to measure someone's nuking damage. This is Sabin, and in his newest JP rework, his BT grants the party true enchant for both holy and wind. He is the perfect partner for Aiko because every single nuke unit can now be consistently measured. Not only that, his FR only requires you to deal wind and holy damage. Here are the total party HP cap ups from Aiko and Sabin. For units that nuke with their LD attack, we're giving them the U6 passive, which allows for 2 more LD uses and an extra 20% HP cap up when using them. EX nukers will instead have the U4 passive, which gives a chance to refill EX gauge after every move. Here is the nuking formula we're going to be using. What I will be measuring here are the last 6 turns of force time where the unit is straight up nuking. I'm not grouping them separately anymore, I'm just going to list them all starting from the bottom. The lowest unit for nuke damage is Zac. Then it is in this order: Edgar, Shantoto, Tifa, Quistis, Lunafreya, Squall, Yuna, Lightning, Sid Reigns, Sarah, Leo, Rem, Noel, Yuri, Vincent, Mog, Queen, Papalomo, Yuffie, Braska, Cloud, Jesse, Zidane, Renoa, Rosa, Locke tied with Lon and Rain, and then comes Weiss, Fusoya, Noctis, Celtius, Deuce, Baltier, Aranea, Reno, Golbez, Sephiroth, and Rex at 11th place. For the top 10 nukers in global, I first have Jill Nobbit, then Enacro, Leonora, Sisney, and Ignis. 5th place is Kadaj, Strago 4th, and finally for the top 3, we have Snow at 552 million, Ida at 676 million, and finally Astos significantly above everyone else by nearly 130 million, nukes for a total of 813 million damage. So let's compare the rankings of total damage and nuke damage. Looking at the placement changes here, you can see just how important differentiating nuke from total to off-turn damage is. With burst phases as well, most people often gauge how much damage a unit does from their burst phases, but that just doesn't work. Using my formula, Reno's BT phase at max deals more damage than Kadaj, Enacro, and Ida. Would you say that he does more damage than them? Hell freaking no. Not every unit operates the same. You have to separate the different types of DPS. What I can tell you, however, the biggest deciding factor of whether a unit does good damage is by the number of their HP attacks. The more HP cap ups you include in your party, the better HP attacks are going to scale. Remember, these formulas are not perfect, and I've put a list of limitations here that I've personally found. Let me know if you found any more. That's the video. Bye!